What is going on, Ravens flock, and welcome back here again to another episode of the Ravens Way podcast. Joining me, as always, during these wonderful holiday times is Boss. Boss, how we doing? How we feeling?
Doing very well. Doing very well. Ravens took care of business in San Fran. Now they have another huge matchup on tap for this week. Probably the most high leverage 2 week back to back that I can remember. Probably maybe playing the two best teams in the NFL back to back, and the Ravens being the best team. So everything's great. Hope everybody enjoyed the holidays and happy early New Year to everybody.
Yeah, I had a pretty good holiday. Just relaxed on the Monday during the Monday game. Kind of felt like the Ravens were in control for most of that game, and I'm just looking forward to the next one and obviously breaking down in the nitty gritty with it.
Yeah, so let's get into that game. You and I were on the right side of that one. A lot of people were worried, but I think we were right to go with the better quarterback. And I thought the Ravens coaching, the defense, Mike McDonald, defense coordinator, called a really good game. It wasn't quite as dominant maybe on second watch as some are making it out to be, but the 5 turnover margin obviously made a huge difference.
Definitely, and to the point we made in the show before this, it kind of came down to the quarterback, and Brandon Stevens made a comment that I thought was really interesting after the game that there's a lot of spot throws that he has and timing, and they it's so, I don't want to say predictable, but it just became something that they could key in on, and that's what kind of led to the 5 turnovers. And the 5 interceptions from the defense. But just general thoughts before we really dive into it. I don't know. We got a good football team. We just beat up on the number 1 seed. I mean, like you said, maybe not super dominating, but I mean they won pretty convincingly. So
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing is, San Fran just outgained him in yards and outgained him in yards per play by almost a full yard. But I think it's proven now. We've seen it so many times. Mike McDonald's scheme works against all quarterbacks that don't have necessarily elite arm strength. The one time we saw him got picked apart was the Cleveland game with Deshaun Watson. But other than that, a Purdy, a Burrow, any of these kind of timing, as you said, timing-based, they can read the field but don't have the arm strength to attack all regions of the field depending on the coverage. McDonald has the elixir for all of them. I thought there were a lot of really standout performances on the defensive side. And I think Marlon Humphrey had his best game of the year for sure. He had a pick. He deflected another pass that Hamilton picked off. He only allowed 25 yards into his coverage on 5 targets. He was laying the wood in the run game. He took a couple vicious shots put on Deebo Samuel. That guy's so strong he didn't go down. But I like seeing him in the slot too. So I want to start there. Marlon Humphrey is definitely trending up.
Yeah, I would agree. I think as the time goes on and his foot gets healthier, he's playing a lot better. And to your point, this past game, just really being a physical football player. The only, I guess, complaint I would have is that a couple times he did go for the hit stick, the old hit stick, and he didn't maybe wrap up on Deebo, and that kind of led to some extra yardage being allowed. But sometimes you kind of take stuff like that and you just go because you do want to be physical. You do want to kind of set the tone, and I felt really good about him in this past game. And then I guess another highlight performance I would add to is Kyle Hamilton as well.
Absolutely.
Just all over the field in the run defense and the pass defense, being at the right spot at the right time. I think there is, an innate ability to be at the right spot at the right time. It's just not all luck. Being a playmaker around the ball is just an ability that some do have and some don't. And he's just a playmaker, right? Just going out there making plays week in and week out. And thankfully it seems like he's back there practicing. So the knee thing is just, I guess, we'll see what happens with it. But
yeah, he said he told, I think it was Luke Jones today, it was good. He said it was more, it rolled up on his ankle and it kind of traveled up to his knee, but fortunately he was wearing the brace, so that I guess absorbed some of the shock from that. So hopefully he's good to go. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I also
definitely great game. Great game from Hamilton. Only allowed 12 yards into his coverage on 6 targets. That's incredible. Was that 3 yards a target? Um, or sorry, 2 yards a target. So it wasn't the best game for the linebackers. This is actually Roquan. I was just looking at that on PFF. Roquan was sub 40 on PFF in this game against San Fran. So missed tackles. Just kind of not, especially against Kittle, he wasn't maybe getting the right depth on his drops in the zones. But the pass rush was outstanding. They pressured San Fran on 60% of their dropbacks, which is really high. Clowney had 8, and Travis Jones, I think this was his best game as a professional, with 4 pressures, led to a couple Brent Urban cleanup sacks. They really got after that San Fran offensive line, and they're kind of similar to this Miami O-line where they have a really solid left tackle and then below replacement level players from left guard all the way through right tackle. So we'll see how that goes. But it was a good bounce back game for Clowney after a couple quiet games, and I thought it was a Travis Jones breakout game.
definitely, yeah. I thought I agree with you with the Roquan thing. I feel like it didn't get as deep as I thought he should on some of the depths when I was looking at it earlier on the spot drops. I thought he could have got a little bit more downfield, and that also I think that was the big Kittle play to start out the game for them. I felt like he probably could have got a little bit deeper in the cover two, the Mike linebacker dropping back spot. I think he got a little shallow. But to your point, something that I highlighted, like I was thinking of the day of, was um, the interior offensive line for San Francisco wasn't that great, and the Ravens' interior is pretty good. I mean, it's not as flashy as the Eagles with 2 first-round picks, but I mean they have some really good football players that play on the interior for us. So they just kind of dominated in terms of getting pressure. They got ran on, but I mean, so what?
Yeah.
So what? So the other thing I'd point to is Urban as well. I thought that was probably probably his best game this year, without a doubt. And then Clowney, I think Clowney, you said what, had 8 pressures.
Yeah, 8 pressures and a sack. No, he had a sack. Owe just he had I think a handful of pressures, some good edge setting. The front was Queen had a good game. I mean, getting the pick, and they really did well to limit McCaffrey after the catch. I think he had 10 targets and only managed less than 30 yards. And he did pick up some chunk plays on the ground, but this defense is designed to stop the pass, and stopping the pass is more important than stopping the run. So, San Fran outgained, I think they gained like 7 yards a carry or something, and they still lost by a good margin. So, good signs on defense for sure.
Yeah, definitely. The only other point I think I'd add in there is after the first couple of series for Marcus Williams, he seemed like he got a little more comfortable, and then he went out there and made that game closing interception. So that was something else I was looking at, just because the health thing that's been going on with him for a little bit. Just curious about that, but it seems like as the game went on, it kind of started picking it up. But the defense just kind of like they just pin their ears back in the pass rush and put Mike McDonald schemed up pressure. To your point, that there's these quarterbacks that can't push the ball down the field with their arm, and they have to make these rhythm throws and timing throws. Sometimes it comes back to bite them when they play this defense. So
yeah, you even saw it in the game, because when Darnold came in, all of a sudden, Ayuk came alive and they were starting to hit it to the boundaries. And Darnold has a stronger arm than Purdy, that's for sure. That's why they were drafted 7 rounds apart. We'll see how it continues to go. But this is now going to be Miami's now going to be their third, Shanahan tree offense of the last 4 games. So they're starting to get some familiarity with it. Any other thoughts on defense before we flip it to the offense?
Nope.
Yeah, so good offensive. They started slow, and then they scored on 7 straight drives. It was really just the Lamar show. the way he has maintained poise in the pocket when the offensive tackles are getting beat sometimes has been a great improvement over the last few weeks, helping them propel them. I mean, the Ravens have won 9 of the last 10 at this point. So they're really on a nice roll. And this was per Next Gen, I think. He was 6 for 8 for 97 yards and a touchdown. Lamar was while throwing on the run. And that doesn't even include that big scramble he got on the drive right before halftime, where he picked up about 30 yards and dusted Fred Warner in the open field. So very good Lamar game. I think he has cemented the MVP. Pending the result of this weekend, but most likely I think he's probably going to put that second one on the shelf this year.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know the MVP thing. I don't really get into it. It's just not for me. It's not for me. But to your point, I thought this was one of his, like you said, one of his better games. Probably one of his best games this year. I would say top 3 at least. Just very, very it's like an innate ability to make decisions as a quarterback that he doesn't get a lot of credit for. And he made some really good decisions in this game. Get the football clean, and couple drops by Rashad Bateman probably could have helped out the stat line a little bit. But the throw to Flowers I thought was really well placed, and then he also kind of looked off the safety a little bit during that play as well. So just keep playing. He keeps playing at a high level as a quarterback, and as much as the 49ers want to deny it, you only go as far as your quarterback will take you. It's just he's just playing on another level. He really is.
Yeah, really good game from Lamar. The Aguilar touchdown as well. Either way, when he maneuvered the pocket to give him time to come open on that crosser. He's just playing with a ton of poise right now, and it's great. And then you couple that with his special athleticism and decision making and accuracy over the middle of the field, and you have an MVP quarterback. The best team and the best player. Flowers was definitely the go-to guy in this game. He had almost a 40% target share. He didn't get a whole lot out of Beckham or Bateman. The other main target was Likely, who I thought had a good game. He's pretty much reproducing what Mark Andrews did. He's probably doing it a different way as far as more yak based. But he's impressed me in the last few weeks as he's been filling in for Andrews, making more plays than I thought necessarily he was capable of.
Definitely. He's a lot better athlete than the relative athletic score gave him. He does seem to be a lot more athletic out there. I still will hold that Kolar is probably the better athlete, but in terms of pound for pound. But to your point, Likely has shown just to be another threat, another weapon to add to the field, and another way to change the defense and spread them horizontally. And I think adding to that, the only kind of thing that's in limbo in my eyes right now with the offense is Bateman, just because I feel like he hasn't had that game, and maybe he can coming up against your Miami, but just in terms of the weapons and trying to fill that quote unquote void to Mark Andrews, I feel like just we need a little tiny bit more juice out of Bateman. Clean up the drops. I feel like those were just he just got a little unconcentrated and it happens. But I think we do need to get him a tiny bit more involved, hopefully.
I'd agree with that. He's had too many drops this year and untimely drops. And at some point, Lamar's just going to stop targeting him when he really needs it because he doesn't trust him to make the grab. So I think at some point during this hypothetical postseason run they're going to need a big performance out of Bateman. So got to keep him involved and keep building that chemistry. I mean, they had great chemistry the first half of last year, and I don't know what happened. Even especially that Miami game where he took that slant like 80 or some yards, I think, right? So I guess the last thing we'll touch on, they couldn't really get a whole lot going on the ground, and I wasn't expecting them to against San Fran. You're just not going to get a whole lot going on the ground against a team whose defensive front is littered with first-round picks, and you got maybe the best linebacker tandem. And that's fine because Monken didn't force it, which I thought was good. The offensive line, I thought, did pretty well. Ronnie gave up some pressures. Some of them happened to be on plays that were penalties, or somebody else got a penalty, so maybe they didn't show up on some of the scoring. But going back, I noticed it. But he did definitely played a lot better than he had in previous weeks, especially in the first quarter. I thought he had some really nice. I think he had got a pancake on Bosa at one point and held up pretty well. So that was encouraging. And the interior linemen, Simpson and Linderbaum, also did pretty good. So I was expecting maybe them to allow a little more pressure, and I think that was better than I anticipated walking into the game.
Definitely, I feel like the first half, the offensive line was really really stout. Like
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot of chaos being being made by Bosa or Young. It was just kind of a mostly clean first half for Lamar to be able to throw the football downfield, and then they come out there in that third quarter and just score 2 touchdowns so quickly, and it just kind of put the game away on us in a sense, at least mentally. But yeah, I just felt like that was a good bounce back performance I was looking for from Stanley, because have certainly been a critic of his obviously it's not his fault because his leg is made out of jello, but I just felt like that he could hopefully have a better game, and he did. So the last thing I think the only other thing I'll touch on was Justice Hill had 10 carries for 26 yards, so 2.6 yards a carry. That's just not, it's not great. Not great at all. It is a good defensive line, but sometimes all the good running backs, at least somewhat good, can break one and just change that average just a tiny bit.
A couple of them were tackled for loss, where Bosa grabbed him like 5 yards, like beat Moses and grabbed him 5 yards in the backfield as soon as he got the handoff. Not a whole lot you can do about that, but I agree. Justice just doesn't. He just doesn't necessarily have the natural feel, or the vision and some of the high end running backs. But I don't have a problem with Lamar being a leading rusher as he was in this game. He's been for the last couple games. It is what it is. They've lost their 2 kind of best backs, and they're just pushing through. I'd rather be pushing through with my depth running backs than my depth offensive linemen like San Fran was forced to do in this game. I think you're in a much better spot because the drop off isn't nearly as far. So anyway, a lot of people were scared of the big bad 49ers. We weren't. I think that was smart. If there's a rematch, I don't fear them. I don't really fear anybody except for the ones with the really superstar quarterbacks who can just take over the game. And hopefully the Ravens have enough to counter that when the time comes. But as we said, since the Clowney signing, you and I both kind of thought that this was a special season. We both predicted Ravens make the Super Bowl. They're very well balanced. They're the only team that's top 5 in offensive DVOA, defensive DVOA, and special teams DVOA. They're a very talented team. They have talent in the right places. They're very well coached. Their coordinators have good schemes. And to me, the most important thing is they're very focused this year. They just seem extremely focused on the Super Bowl and the playoffs. And you can just see it in the players' eyes on every play and every interview, especially Lamar. The tone, he sets a tone, and it comes out from him. He doesn't care about the MVP. Every comment leads back to, we're trying to win. We want to win the Super Bowl. And so let's hope they can keep it going. But that was a statement win for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And if we see them again, I would hope to see them over a team like Philadelphia. I think that I feel comfortable saying that. Even though Philly's had some struggles, it always does come down to the quarterback, in my opinion. And the one playing for San Francisco is not as good as the EPA wants to make him out to be. The only EPA I know, Voss, is eat pussy all the time. So that's the only one I know.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Bleep that out. Bleep that out in editing. All right, let's look at Miami here. And I'm going to set the table a little bit. 2021 Thursday night. I think it was Thursday night game, right? 22.
Yep.
And they zero blitzed the hell out of Lamar that game. And he couldn't get it going. They lost that game 22-10. Then last year, Ravens have a 35-14 lead at home against Miami, and they come storming back with Tyreek Hill just going nuts and Waddle just going nuts. We said it a couple weeks ago. What's the one team you're most scared to face in the AFC? And this was before, KC really fell off and some of these other teams. And we both said Miami because they have playmakers in the right positions. Their defense is really playing well lately. This is per Mina Kimes since week 8. Miami defense is first in EPA per play, second in success rate, first in the opposition's QBR, and fifth in DVOA. Since week 8, they're really taken to that Fangio scheme, and the return of Jalen Ramsey has made a big difference for them.
Yeah, it's to your point, they have playmakers everywhere, and it seems like they can supplement an injury like Jalen Phillips going out for the year with the edge depth that they have with Van Ginkel and Chubb, and they have Agba as well, who can flex out sometimes on the edge, and the defensive line is really good. It's another defensive line full of former first round picks and highly touted guys from Alabama, and you got Christian Wilkins, you got a lot of guys in that defense. Zach Zeiler, the former Raven as well, who's been playing well, and then you got Ramsey and X on the outside, and you have Holland patrolling the middle, and I think Holland and Hamilton are probably like the two kind of super rising safeties right now in the league. Two guys are just playing really well.
For sure. To that point about that D-line, Christian Wilkins and Zach Sealer have combined for 16 sacks out of your defensive tackle tandem, so that's really good. They are a little bit susceptible to the run. Their defensive line is 23rd in success rate against power runs, so I do think that that's something that Monken will lean on. Couple good matchups here. Chubb against Stanley is a big one. They don't blitz very much. They rely on their front four to get home, and they do pretty well at that. Van Ginkel's playing he's playing great. So him against Moses. And then Odell Beckham against Jalen Ramsey. We're not sure if Zay Flowers is going to be able to play this game because he missed 2 practices in a row now with a calf injury. Also, Javon Holland is also questionable, just to note that. But Xavier Howard is not having the best year. He's kind of like an every other year kind of guy, it seems, and this is his down year. But I think this is probably going to be a more run heavy game script, game plan, as long as the game script allows that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that the Dolphins' strength is definitely pass defense, and their weakness is rush defense. And they're kind of, I don't want to say similarly built to us, but I think they're probably more built towards the 2019 kind of team where they have their playmakers and their safety, and they want to get you to throw the football and in a negative game script. But I also think that you can probably dominate them pretty well over the middle of the field throwing the football. Their linebackers aren't as great, and you have it seems like they kind of had a couple injuries there this year as well, so they're kind of just rotating through a couple guys. But just
and Deshaun Elliott, former Ravens, more of a box thumper than a coverage safety.
Yeah, exactly. So I think this might be another game where you get your tight ends involved over the middle of the field, and maybe get your playmakers as well in there. Some Zay Flowers, well, he might not be there, but Bateman out of the slot, Beckham out of the slot, whoever you want to put there. But I think this is definitely a good game where you can stray away from constantly attacking the outside of the field, maybe to go a little more inside.
Agree with that. Yeah, I have something unlikely when we get to our props. Anything else on the Ravens offense against Miami defense you want to highlight before we flip it over?
I do think while they're both, X is having a down year, Jalen Ramsey is playing really well. I do think they are a little susceptible to the deep pass from what I've seen. Just a couple things. I feel like um, X is almost, I don't want to say a liability out there in terms of deep coverage, and Fangio does love running that quarters system. But this might be one of those games where we can cork one and have hopefully someone track the ball correctly deep down the field.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I think getting up to an early lead will be really important as far as what kind of box you can put them in or what kind of box they put you in. So let's flip it over to the offense. Ravens defense against Miami offense. Tua is has the fastest release in the NFL this season as far as getting the ball out quick, which he needs to because their offensive line is very vulnerable. And then he is top 3 in EPA. Now that you said that, every time I say EPA, I think of that.
I thought about tweeting it earlier, but I'm like, you know what? Someone's gonna yell at me.
Good call. So he is top 3 in EPA from a clean pocket. He's only 20th when it's pressured. So I do think they're going to be able to try to get after that right side of that offensive line and get him under some pressure.
Definitely, yeah. I think this is kind of like a similar game to the one we just played, which you were pointing out earlier. You got your playmakers, you got your good left tackle, and you have your quarterback who needs to make quick decisions. And you have a good run game to rely on. Raheem Mostert's got 20 touchdowns on the year, so that's crazy. That is actually, it's kind of crazy he's not getting the hype just because he's not running the football as much as McCaffrey is in terms of like yards. But 20 touchdowns is a lot, and then they have A-Chain, who's an explosive back. I just think that the Ravens match up defensively well again. Like they have the advantage, over the front. They certainly have the advantage with the linebackers, and I think it'll come down to I think Waddle got rolled out, didn't he, or is he?
He's doubtful. He's the least doubtful.
Yeah. So,
and if you're doubtful, you're pretty much out.
Yeah, if you go down, I feel like you go down one of them. Now you're just relying on Tyreek, but he'll make his plays. He's a good football player. He's certainly has my MVP vote, but
yeah,
I feel like you need two playmakers. So I think
3 really.
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of perimeter threats, I think you need two perimeter wide receivers that can separate. And if you only knock that down to the one, it kind of allows the defense to change up and kind of rotate to that side a little bit and limit. So I don't know. I just feel like we match up well, and I feel like as long as they don't let anything get behind them like they did the last time we played, I think the Ravens defense can probably, I don't know, have 3 takeaways and kind of just get after it.
Yeah, I think tackling will be critical in this game. The Ravens maybe one kind of crack in the armor the last down the stretch. Gino is not tackling well at all right now. And Miami's a team that can really make you pay for that with their backs, as you said, and Tyreek. But as you go from a team that had, 4 Pro Bowl type playmakers to now, if Waddle's out and they have a back, one of the 2 backs in at a time, plus Tyreek, and then you're rolling out Cedric Wilson and Chase Claypool and
Chosen Anderson.
Chosen Anderson and Carcrat. I mean, it's just a it's like the Ravens 2022 receiving core after Tyreek. The big question is, how are you? What's your game plan on Tyreek? How are you trying to match up with him?
Marlon with his foot, I said it last game, put him on Devo. He matched up on Devo, and Devo didn't really do a lot. But last game, I said put Stevens on Ayuk because of the former running back background that Stevens had and the change of direction that he carries with that. And I feel like this game, it's not like we have an Anthony Averett that's is a sub 4.3 something guy, and he's a fast guy. So I guess you're putting Stevens on him, and you're you're keeping a safety back, probably on that side, whatever side he lines up on. Um, but I feel like this might be a Brandon Stevens, put some trust and faith into him type game, and see what happens. Because I just feel like you get Darby, you get Yasin. Do you want to put one of those guys on him? Or do you want to put Stevens on him? And I feel like I have a little more faith in Stevens right now.
Yeah, notably, Stevens did not practice today again. He's got an ankle injury. Hopefully, he's available. I would like to see a good bit of Marlowe on him, but I think you just got to bracket him. I mean, they ran a lot of zone last week, probably more zone against San Fran than they have against most teams this season. Um, I think you want to run a lot of zone, but you want to, highlight, just give him extra attention one way or another. He's the guy. He's the best receiver in the league. And as you said, he's one of the most valuable players in the league. Bet you KC is reconsidering their trade at this point.
Yeah. Also, I wouldn't mind them if he ever lines up in the slot. Well, they always motion him, and that's the problem.
Yeah,
But if he ever
you can't
lines
get a
up,
jam in. Yeah.
I know 'cause I was gonna say line up a defensive end out there next to him and just jam him.
Mhm.
But they
Yeah,
always move him, so
yeah. You don't have anybody that can touch his speed. I mean, no one in the league can touch his speed except for maybe Waddle
yeah.
and H. So yeah, they got all the track stars on one team there. That's pretty much what I have as far as matchups. I think Matabike and Clowney should pretty much have their way with the interior blockers. Um, they got some really awful grades on their PFF depth chart from left guard through right tackle. And Armstead's, like at a 90, 92 or something. And then everybody else is in the 40s and 50s. Kind of crazy. Matabike's streak was broken last game, so maybe you can start a new one this game. I wouldn't throw a whole ton of blitzes, but I think you can probably confuse Tua with some deceptive pressures and disguised coverages.
Yeah, I wouldn't throw too many blitzes. I do like having defensive backs be in the backfield this game in terms of staying back in coverage, not in the opponent's backfield. Just
Mhm.
because once one of them breaks a tackle, it kind of turns into a mess, and they start getting loose, and then they start rolling, and then your defense gets a little tired, and then it's a whole thing. So yeah, I would agree though. I would love for some defensive tackles to be just dropped into the middle of lanes this game. I think this is a
Mhm.
great game to do it and get in front of those RPO slant lanes and get in front of those quick route lanes and the quick curls and all the stuff they do. Um, and probably similar to the last game, you kind of just want to force everything to the middle of the field. Don't let anything get beaten on the boundary, and have those guys be on a one-on-one, two-on-one type of situation. Kind of push everything towards your playmakers and Queen and Hamilton and Roquan and Marcus Williams and all those guys.
Rally to tackle. Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Good call as far as getting those drops. So Ravens are favored by 3.5, depending on where you look, and the total is at 47. How do you see the game kind of breaking out and score prediction? You go first.
So a couple weeks ago, I probably would have told you that the Ravens are going to lose this game. Uh, but I think after that Rams game, I feel very confident in what this team can do. That Rams game kind of showed the light for me a little bit in terms of how comfortable I feel about the offense. So I just think that this is going to another game where the Ravens end up winning. Um, I'm going to say 29 to 18. I just think the Ravens probably handled this one a little bit. The Dolphins are a very good team, but as long as the Ravens keep playing clean football and they're throwing the football, um, I find them hard to beat.
Well said. I think Tyreek is going to get his. You can just there's just not too much you can do to prevent it. But I do think McDonald gets into his head a little bit with some of his play calls. Lamar's going to do some Lamar things. I do think Gus gets rolling a little bit too. Take advantage of that weakness for them. If Waddle was healthy, and maybe if Holland was fully healthy and Jalen Phillips, I could see Miami giving it to the Ravens. But at this point, the Ravens are on such a roll, and Lamar is just in the zone, and he's just a difference maker every week. So I will predict a pretty close score and a lower scoring game. Ravens 24, Dolphins 17. Props?
Well, to your point, I do like Gus Edwards' alternate rushing yards, 40 plus. Just feels like a market's very achievable against this defense. And touchdown. No, I'm not feeling a touchdown. I'm not feeling a touchdown. I am feeling a Lamar touchdown. Though a Lamar running touchdown. I'm feeling that one. And then I think the last prop I'll go with is the Ravens. The Ravens minus 8.5. That was my last prop there. The Ravens will win by 8.5.
That's ambitious. All right, so I like Isaiah Likely over 44 receiving yards. I think they are going to target the middle of the field. I like Gus over 40 rushing yards. I like the Ravens against the spread. I like the under as far as the total. And as we were talking here, I was thinking Aguilar touchdown. If Flowers is out and Bateman's kind of not, or at least maybe Flowers is on a snap count or something. And Aguilar's kind of been a touchdown scorer quite a few times this year. So let's see here. Nelson Aguilar is plus 425 to score an anytime touchdown. So that's I'm actually going to put that in right now as we're live.
Yeah, I put 5 last game and it won me 45 on him.
Yeah. Very good. So yeah, let's do that. So yeah, that's what I like. It's been a long season for the Ravens. If they can notch this win and then they lock up the 1 seed, lock up home field advantage as long as they survive in advance and have 2 weeks to rest. And I would take those 2 weeks. I don't buy this you're going to get rusty kind of stuff. I mean, look, we're in college bowl season, and these guys haven't played in a month. And Alabama and Michigan aren't going to come out, rusty. The bye weeks are supposed to be considered an advantage during the regular season. Oh, this team's coming off a bye. They had more time to prepare. Their players are fresher. They had an extra week to recover a little bit. Let's give them a couple extra points against the spread or whatever. Why would that not apply to the playoffs? I don't get that. So anyway, my preference would be lock this game up, stay healthy, get Kyle Hamilton's knee in a hyperbaric chamber for 2 weeks, get Ronnie Stanley's knee, see if Mark Andrews apparently ahead of schedule. So yeah, just let's get this, let's punch this last ticket and get ready for the Festivus season.
Yeah, yep. I will be there, so hopefully it'll be loud, be nice home field advantage.
There we go.
And yeah, just win the game, win the 1 seed, win the division. Maybe we'll get a little bit of help here tonight and win it anyway. But yeah, it's another one of those games where either you can go out and take it or leave it up to fate and leave it up, I guess, to Buffalo the following week. So I mean, I still think Buffalo probably wins that game anyway, but
that Buffalo I think would have the 2 seed if they win. If Miami loses out, because they would win their division. I know that. And then I guess it depends what KC does, but yeah, they're still alive for the 2 seed.
Yeah. So I'm fine with that. I'm fine with not seeing. I don't know. I think out of all the AFC teams, Buffalo's the one where I'm like they're kind of getting hot at the right time, and that's that does matter. That is way heavy, even though their roster may not be as healthy or as good as it once was.
Yeah, their offense is really on a tremendous role right now. Their defense has suffered a lot of injuries, but yeah, I'd rather not play them if you don't have to.
Yeah, I'd rather play Kansas City than them.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Be careful what you wish for. I'd rather play Cleveland in the conference championship game somehow. So I don't know if that's possible. But anyway, speaking of Cleveland, let's wrap it up with a little look around the league. Thursday Night Football, we have the Jets and the Browns, two defensive-minded teams. Pretty low point total here. What are you looking for? What do you expect? And where should we put our money?
Yeah, I think the Browns probably won this one just because they're just such a talented team, and Amari Cooper going out could play a really big role in thwarting that. But this is also Elijah Moore revenge game. First time playing the Jets, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, has to be.
Yeah, so that's where I'm putting my money. I'm putting my money. Yeah, I'm putting my money on. Yeah, I'm putting my money on Elijah Moore to go over 2.5 receptions, and to go over 25 yards. Just put those two together. It'll probably put you about even money, maybe a little bit ahead. And then my little lottery ticket parlay is I almost hit one last week. Godwin failed me. I had him on a fantasy team. I'm like, I'm gonna do the fantasy ticket parlay and copy that guy. And then Javonte scored and Jerome Ford scored and all these people scored and Justin Fields ran into a touchdown and I'm like, oh, here we go. And then Chris Godwin just got a ball overthrown his head. But anyway, my little ticket play for this game in terms of touchdowns, there may not be a lot, but I like Breece Hall touchdown, I like Jerome Ford touchdown, and I like Njoku touchdown. Those three together are the ones that I'm rocking with. Is a lottery ticket, not my official lock.
Yeah, I think this is a complete, maybe one of the biggest mismatches of the year in the trenches with Cleveland's D-line going up against the Jets' O-line. I think they're going to be living in the backfield. So I'm going with Cleveland money line, parlayed with the Njoku touchdown. We know Flacco likes his tight ends. We know Sauce is going to be glued to Amari Cooper after that huge game he had last year. And we also know that Mosley, although he has a better coverage grade than either of the Ravens linebackers this year, is susceptible to getting beat by athletic tight ends up the seam. So I do like the Njoku touchdown coupled with that, and that is plus 200, plus 204 to be exact. And our last little segment here is upset of the week. I struggle to find a good one because this is a pretty.
I got a good one.
This is the chalkiest week I've seen, to be honest.
Yeah, I got a good one. I like the Steelers. They're like plus 1 something over the Seahawks. I was looking at earlier, and it's the witching hour over there in Pittsburgh. They got the dark magic going, and they're just doing weird things. Mason Rudolph is looking like a good quarterback, and it's just I don't know. They every time this time of year comes around, Tomlin seems to somehow put it all together just to get over his 500 mark, so he can be a head coach for the next 5 years.
Yeah, let's keep the Steelers right at 500 for the next 2 decades, and Tomlin can keep his record intact, and we'll be happy. We don't have to deal with them. I'm going to go with the Titans over the Texans in Houston. As I said, I don't literally love any of these this week. It's looking up and down the board. It's pretty much I expect almost all the favorites to win, which is unusual because I'm a little bit of a contrarian. But Texans are just kind of fizzling out here with the young players hitting that rookie wall. And I think Vrabel, as he being the strong motivator that he is not going to lay down. So I'll take the Titans plus 185.
Yeah, I was looking at that one as well. I was thinking about that one. But who knows? Maybe the 49ers have a little bit another of a spiral against the Commanders with Brissett. Even though terrible matchup. But
I think that's the biggest line of the week, isn't it? Isn't that line like 16 or something?
I think so. I thought it was like
12 and a half.
30.
12 and a half. Yeah, or no. Well, Buffalo's favored by 13 against New England, and Philly's favored by 11 against Arizona. So yeah, there's some big ones this week. Yeah, I don't know. How about the Easton Sticks Chargers against who is it going to be? Who's Broncos? It's not Russell Wilson's anymore. Who's their back? Simeon? Stidham. That's right, Jared Stidham. Yeah. I don't
That
know.
might not be a bad one.
Yeah, the Chargers played Buffalo tough last week. So
Yeah.
the interim coach bounced.
Yeah. So, with that, boss, any final thoughts before we go?
No, the Ravens are right where they want to be at this. When we started this podcast, we would, I think we both would have been consider the season a 10 out of 10 through the first 16 weeks if the Ravens were sitting at with the best record in the league and relatively healthy, all things considered. So hope they can get it done this year. Let's keep stacking W's and see how far they can carry it.
Definitely. Yeah. Just keep winning, and lock up this one seed. I think that's very important. 2019 they didn't have the roster they do now. This roster now is miles better than that one. I think offensive line is the only one you can make a pretty clear argument for. But I just think that this defense is really good. It's you know beating up the NFC's number one seed, and hopefully now we can it can do the same against the AFC's number two seed, and kind of just have us be able to relax that last week.
Sounds good. Sounds good, bro. Listen, Happy New Year to you and to everyone else.
You as well. We will see you guys next time.